Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today we're gonna work on braided peyote bracelet. Now this bracelet is the one I showed you in the twist bracelet tutorial, and many of you quite liked it and messaged me like when I would make a tutorial or if I would ever, and I honestly thought I took this one apart. So after a couple messages I decided to give it a go and made another one just yesterday, and then I found this one after that. But let me explain a bit here. When I made this bracelet, I had an idea in my head that I just wanted to have a braided bracelet. And I started with this part, and then I just divided into three and made three long strips and then just braided it and then connected at the end. But what I ended up with, because the braids here, they're just strips of straight peyote, they kept on, they would end up twisted like that. And then what I had to do, I took another thread, and in places I connected the beads, like here you can see the beads connected. That's why it more or less lies straight, but the whole process was so confusing and I wasn't happy with it at all. And if you can see, the braids even are uneven. Here they're quite short, here quite long, so the overall look, I wasn't happy. So I honestly thought I took it apart. So yesterday I made this bracelet, well, a couple days back. And this time I took a mathematical approach to it, and that's how I ended up. And it's just, when I take mathematical approach to anything, it means it's gonna be easy for me to explain because there are certain steps you take. While here, I would just say make 3 long strips and then braid it and connect it in random places. I mean, the beaders that have been beading for ages will understand that, but if you are new to beading, I will just end up confusing you. So that's why I wasn't planning to make a tutorial, but then I took the time and made this one, and I just wanted to add a pop of color as well and made one of the braids blue. So today we're gonna work on this one. It's the same bracelets, it's just made in 2 different ways. So this one I made in just silver, this one I made in black and blue. Today I'm gonna make it blue and silver. So that's what we're gonna work. I'm gonna make with 1 braid different color. You can make them all in 1 color. You can make 3 braids in 3 different colors. It's entirely up to you. And then you're gonna need Nymo size D, beading needle size 10, scissors to cut the thread, and you will need a stop bead to start off. So I'm gonna go ahead, thread my needle with 2 yards, and then we'll get to work. So I thread my needle with 2 yards. I have my main color. Instead of black, I'm gonna be using blue. And instead of that blue strip, I'm gonna be using silver. So I'm gonna, well, I'll just say blue and silver, and you can use any other colors you like. So I thread my needle with 2 yards. I'm gonna take my stop bead. I'm gonna take my needle, let's say I'm just gonna leave a short tail that I can sew in. I don't have to leave a long thread because depending on how big your wrist is, you might have to add extra thread. So we'll just leave a short tail that we can sew in, and then we'll add a new thread to finish off one side. Now I'm gonna take my needle through again through the stop bead to make sure it stays in place. And we're gonna start peyote. My bracelet is 12 beads wide that we can divide by 3, and then we'll end up each strip being 4 beads wide. So I'm gonna pick up 4 blue beads, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 silver beads, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then again 4 blue beads, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 4 main color beads, 4 the center bead, and 4 main color beads, and I'm just gonna drop it down. And from here we just do peyote. I'm gonna zoom in. I'm gonna pick up 1 blue bead, and then I'm gonna skip 1 and pick up the next bead. I'm gonna pull my thread. The next bead I'm gonna pick up will have to be the same color as my next bead after my threads coming out. So the next bead is blue. I'm gonna pick up blue. Skip 1, pick up the next bead. So the next bead after my thread is silver, so I'm gonna pick up silver. Skip 1 and pick up the next bead after that and pull my thread. And then after my thread, the next bead is silver. I'm gonna pick up silver. And then skip one and pick up the next bead. Peyote in the beginning is a bit wonky, but once we finish this row, we can straighten things up. The next bead after my thread is blue. I'm gonna pick up blue. So I'm gonna skip one bead and pick up the one after. And pull my thread. Then the one after that is blue, so I'm gonna pick up blue. Skip one bead and pick up the last bead. And then here I can pull my threads and ensure this looks like a peyote. So I'm just gonna straighten things up so it's easier to continue. So here I have my 3 rows of peyote. So I'm gonna take my thread. So the next bead I'm gonna put on is on top of this bead, right? So I'm gonna pick up blue and go through the next bead. The next bead I'm gonna pick up, see the bead after my thread is blue, I'm gonna pick up blue and go through the next bead. We are going through the sticking out beads now. Then I'm gonna pick up silver bead because the bead after my thread is silver. I'm gonna go through the next sticking out bead. Then I'm gonna pick up silver because the bead after the thread is silver, and then go through the next sticking out bead. Then the bead after my thread is blue. I'm gonna pick up blue. And then go through the next bead. And then the last one is blue. And then go through the last sticking out bead. And now we have 4 beads, 4 rows of peyote stitch. So in the beginning, we just start with the stretch of a peyote, and then once you have a comfortable length, let's say 1 centimeter of peyote stitch, we're gonna divide it into 3. So I'm gonna do 1 more row with you of peyote. I'm gonna let you continue on your own until you have, let's say, just 1 centimeter. That's easy to hold on to. So I'm gonna pick up blue because the next bead is blue, and then go through the next sticking out bead. Pick up blue, go through the next blue sticking out bead. Pick up silver, go through the next sticking out bead. Pick up silver, go through the next sticking out bead. So just make sure when you're picking up different color beads, they're gonna lay on top of the same color bead. It's very easy. You have the 4 beads in the beginning blue, 4 beads in the middle silver, 4 beads blue. So my next bead, see my threads coming out of? And the next bead after is blue. So I'm gonna pick up blue. Pick up the next sticking out bead. And then the last one is also blue. Go through the last sticking out bead. So I'll make about 5 more peyote rows, and then I'm gonna meet you there. So I have 10 rows of peyote, and I think it's time for me to divide it into 3. So what I'm gonna do, it's easy. See, we have already 3 divisions: blue, silver, blue. So I'm gonna build peyote on top of the blue, only with blue now. I'm gonna pick up blue, go through the first sticking out bead. Pick up blue, go through the next sticking out bead. That's 1 row. Flip it over, pick up blue, go through the next blue bead, sticking out. Pick up blue, go through the next sticking out bead. That's 2 rows. Flip it over, pick up 1, blue, go through the next sticking out bead, pick up one blue, go through the next sticking out bead. That's 3 peyote rows. Flip it over, pick up one blue, go through the next sticking out bead, pick up one blue, go through the next sticking out bead. And that's 4 peyote rows. Continue like that all the way until you have 21 rows of blue. And once you have 21, you stop and meet me back here. So I have 21 rows of blue strip here. I removed my needle from this thread and I took another thread. I took 1 yard and thread my needle here. You can use a second needle and just leave one here, but I'm just scared to lose needles, so I always work with one. So I just removed my needle here, took a new thread of 1 yard and thread my needle here. So here I have to add this one here to start the second row. You will have to work with 3 threads here, otherwise I couldn't find another way. So my thread here has to be coming out of this blue bead going this way. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna add my thread here. Let's say I'm gonna go through this bead here, leave a small tail that I can hold on to right now, go through the neighbor bead down, go another bead down. Here I'm gonna go up this bead, the neighbor bead, go down again the neighbor bead, then I'm gonna make my way up there. I'm just gonna go through the neighbor bead upwards, come out of the thread come out of the bead I'm supposed to be coming out of. And here I can remove this small tail. I'm just gonna snip it at the very base. So what I did here, I went with my needle up and down, creating, you know, different pathways. So my thread is nice and strong now. And I didn't make any knots because we are working with Delicas. In Delicas create, you know, they just stand up right next to each other without leaving any space in between whatsoever. So you don't really have to make knots. But if you are trying to make this bracelet with round beads, I suggest make knots because round beads leave a lot of space in between, and I think this way doesn't really work for that. So you have to make knots. So from here, I'm just gonna flip it over. And now I'm gonna work only with silver. I'm gonna pick up 1 silver, go through the next silver bead, pick up 1 silver, go through the next silver bead. That's row number 1. Flip it over. This one, so it doesn't get on the way, you can just take all the threads there and put it on one side. And just keep on working with this one. So pick up 1 silver, go through the next silver bead, pick up 1 silver, go through the next silver sticking out bead. So that's 2 rows. Flip it over, pick up silver, go through the next silver bead, pick up silver, go through the next silver bead. That's row number 3. Flip it over, continue all the way until you have 21 rows just like in here. And then I'm gonna meet you back here. So I finished the middle strip. And again, I removed my needle from this thread. I took another thread of 1 yard, thread my needle, and here we have to attach it again to the strip. be coming out of this very corner silver bead there. So I'm just gonna zoom in a bit more, I think. Since have to be coming out downwards, I'm just gonna take my needle upwards here. Let's say I'm gonna go through this bead here. A short tail I can hold on to. Go through the next bead upwards. Go through this bead upwards. I know it can be confusing, so many threads, but what you can do here, what I do, I take all the extra threads to this side, so I have only one thread I'm working with on this side. And then I'm gonna go through this bead upwards. And then let's say I'm gonna go this bead upwards. Then I'm gonna go this one. Then I'm gonna go down the neighbor bead. Pull the thread. And then let's say I'm gonna go up the neighbor bead here. Pull my thread so it's already nice and tight. And then I'm gonna make my way to this bead here. Go down this bead again. Go down this bead here. To make sure it's nice and tight. And I'm almost there. I'm gonna come out of this bead here. That's where I'm supposed to be coming out of. Then here I can get rid of this tail. And now I'm just gonna flip it over. And build my third strip. Pick up blue bead, go through the next sticking out bead. Blue bead, go through the next sticking out bead. That's one. Pick up blue bead, go through the next sticking out bead. Pick up blue bead, go through the next sticking out bead. That's 2 rows, flip it over, build third, fourth, all the way until you have 21 rows. And then once you have them all ready, I'm gonna meet you here. So I have all 21 rows. So here we start braiding. Now you can take a screenshot of this. This is how we're gonna do. That's where we're gonna start. First we're gonna do this part and then this part and so on. So first we're gonna start at the top here. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna take this third on the edge on top of the second one. That's all we do on the first turn. So my needle right now has to be on the middle one. So when I take the third braid on top the second one, I have to connect these two like this. So to do that, my needle needs to be on this thread. I'm gonna show you how to connect it 3 times, and from there you continue on your own, because every time you connect the braids together, it's every time the same way. So I'm gonna take it away, take my third braid on top of the second one. So I'm gonna zoom in. I'm gonna get both of these threads out of the way. and I have this one. So that means my needle has to be on the second braid. I'm gonna take my needle. I'm gonna go 2 beads at the same time. This bead and come out of this second bead. Pull my thread. And then I'm gonna go downwards through this bead and this second bead as well, straight away. And then pull my thread. And then here, I'm gonna go backwards through the same bead my thread's coming out of, downwards, straight 2 beads. And here, when I pull my thread, I wanna make sure I pull it nice and tight. Okay. And then come backwards through these 2 beads. So I made all that round and connecting and came out of the same bead my thread was initially coming out of. See? And it's connected. That's how we do the first round. And now from here, since my thread is already coming out of this bead, I'm gonna pick up 1 silver bead, go through the next sticking out bead. I'm gonna pick up 1 silver bead, go through the next sticking out bead. That row number 1, flip it over, pick up 1 silver bead, go through the next sticking out bead. Pick up 1 silver, go through the next sticking out bead. That's row number 2. Continue all the way until you have 21 rows. Take your needle to the second here. Start doing the peyote stitch again until you have 21 rows, and then the third one, 21 rows. So once you add 21 rows to all 3 strips, I'm gonna meet you back here. So I have again 21 rows. Now I decided, like, we finished the first section, now we started the second section, right? So every time I start a section, I'll just have 1, 2, 3. I'm not gonna count, this is actually number 2, but in my second section, it's a 3rd braid. So in the second section, what we're gonna do, we're gonna take the number 1 braid on top of the second one, and then we're gonna bring the 3rd braid on top of the first one. So that's what you're gonna get. Again, this is number 1, goes on top of the number 2, and number 3 goes on top of the number 1, like this. So I have to connect this now all together. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna connect this 3rd one to the number 1 first. So I'm just gonna remove the other threads for now. I'm gonna zoom in here. So how am I gonna connect it here is the same way like we did before. I'm gonna go through the top 2 beads here. Pull my thread. And then go down these 2 beads. Pull my thread. Then I'm gonna go through the same bead my thread's coming out of, but downwards, 2 beads. And here I want to make sure everything is nice and tight. And then I'm gonna go through the top bead there and straight to the bead my thread was coming out of initially. So we made the whole round and back to the bead where our thread was initially coming out of. And then I'm gonna remove my needle here. If you're using with 3 needles, then you don't need to do that. And now here, I have to connect this remaining here, which was our second, to the 3rd one. So I need to thread this one. So I'm gonna remove the other threads out of the way. Again, I'm gonna take my needle through the top 2 beads, pull my threads, go down these 2 beads, pull my thread, and then here I want to go down through the same bead my thread's initially coming out of, down 1 more bead, and here I want to make sure all my threads are nice and tight, and go down these 2 beads coming out of the same bead my thread was initially coming out of. So I made the whole circle coming to the same bead my thread was coming out of. And here is our second section ready. And then again you continue adding 21 rows to all 3 rows, to all 3 strips, and then I'm gonna meet you back here. And by the way, one thing I wanted to mention, like, you know, every time you count 21 rows and then you do the same one to all other strips, so in the end you end up all threads coming out of the same side. See, my threads coming out on this side, my threads coming out on this side, my threads coming out on this side. So next time I add 21 rows, all my threads will be coming out of this side instead. So the main part is here, the main point is that they all have to be coming out of the same side. See, they're all coming out towards right. That's how you know that you have all 21 rows correctly. But if you have one of the threads coming out on the wrong side, that it means you miscalculated somewhere. So you go ahead to make another 21 rows. From here, I'm not going to show you how to connect them because it's always the same, but I'm going to show you where to connect them. So I don't want you to get confused, and in every section, in every way, I'm going to explain you which strip you're going to connect to which one. So I'm going to meet you back here when we have 21 rows in each strip. So we're in section number 3, and here what you do, this is 1, 2, 3. You take number 1 on top of number 2 and connect them. So here, this one, you'll connect to this one. This one, you leave it for now. So again, 1, 2, 3, you take number 1 on top of number 2 and then connect them. Once you connect them, again, add 21 rows to each one, and then I'm gonna meet you here. So we're in section number 4 now, and what we do here, so this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. Number 3 comes on top of the number 2, and number 1 goes on top of the number 3. And that's how you connect them. Again, number 3 goes on top of the number 2, and number 1 goes on top of the number 3. And that's how you connect them. So here you connect to this one you connect to this. And then once you connect them, again, you add 21 rows to each, and I'm gonna meet you here. So in this section, we have 1, 2, 3. You take number 3 on top of number 2. And that's how you connect them. This number 1, you don't connect in this section. So you take number 3 on top of number 2 and connect them between each other. Once you do that, add again 21 rows to each row, to each strip, and then I'm gonna meet you here. And now in this section, I have 1, 2, 3. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take number 1 on top of 2, and I'm gonna take number 3 on top of 1, and then you connect the bottoms. Again, I have 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna take 1 on top of 2, then I'm gonna take 3 on top of 1. And then once you connect the bottoms, again, add 21 rows on each one, and I'm gonna meet you here. In this section, you have 1, 2, 3. And what you do here, you take 1 on top of the 2 and connect them between each other. Once you connect these two, again, add 21 rows on each strip. So again, you have 1, 2, 3. You take 1 on top of the 2. That's all on this part. You connect it and add 21 rows on each one, and I'm gonna meet you here. So we are at the last section, and what you're gonna do here is 1, 2, 3, right? You're gonna take number 3 on top of the number 2, and then you're gonna take number 1 on top of the 3, and then you connect them between each other. So again, this is 1, 2, 3. You take number 3 on top of number 2 and number 1 on top of the number 3. And once you connect them between each other, don't add 21 units anymore. This is our last stop. And one thing I wanted to explain, see, the 2 strips with where we added 1 yard, we have small tails left. That's how I calculated here, because I don't need any more thread here. But in the beginning where I said 1 yard, I also wrote that you might want to take a bit more. So if you're not comfortable in the end to have a small tail, you might want to add a bit more. But that's how I calculated, because I don't need any more. So once we connect all these 3, I'm gonna come back here and meet you, and then we're gonna continue from there. So I went ahead and connected them between each other. Now we have the main part done. And now what we do, these 2 small tails, forget about them for now. I thread my needle to the longest thread. So I'm gonna take my needle to where this is coming out. So I'm just gonna make my way there. Go through these 2 beads here. And I can just go these 2 beads here. Just making my way to that end. These 2. And to these 2. So I took my longest thread to the end. And now here I'm just gonna flip it over. And I'm just gonna hold down those small tails. And here I just continue normal peyote stitch. I'm gonna pick up blue, go through the next blue. I'm gonna pick up another blue, go through the next blue. Here I'm gonna pick up silver, go through the next silver. Pick up one more silver, go through the next silver. And then here again I pick up blue, go through the next blue. Pick up one more blue and go through the last blue. And you're just gonna flip it over. Again, continue a normal peyote stitch. Like if you remember in the beginning, I did 10 rows of peyote stitch before I divided them. Now here I already made 1. I'm gonna go ahead, make another 9. And from there, I'm gonna start adding on both sides equal amounts until I have the required length for my wrist. You do for your own wrist. You might have smaller or bigger than me, so depending on that, just put it around your wrist and keep on adding. See how much space I still have left? So I will keep on adding same amount on both sides. Now here you have a short tail. You're gonna go ahead, get rid of that tail and add a new thread. I would suggest add about, I don't know, half a yard, maybe even more, depending on your wrist size again. So if you have a bigger wrist, you might want to add a whole yard and continue adding peyote on both sides, same amount, until you have required length. Now another thing I want to mention, this clasp will add about 1 centimeter to the length of the whole bracelet. So you might want to leave out that, say from here to here, it adds about 1 centimeter, which is about ½ inch. So get the full length minus that 1 centimeter or ½ inch. I'm gonna meet you there and I'm gonna show you how to make that clasp. And once you have a comfortable length going on here, you might want to go ahead and get rid of these 2 small tails. We don't need them anymore. Just sew in between the beads and get rid of them. Now, if at some point you had to add thread or you don't know how to get rid of the tail, in the description box there is a link to a short video where I show you how to do that on the peyote stitch. So go ahead and check that out if you don't know how to. And once you have your length, I'm gonna meet you here. Now I have my required length. I have equal amount of peyote on both sides. I'm just OCD like that. You don't have to have them super similar. You can just, it's entirely up to you as long as you have your length and minus the length of the clasp as I mentioned previously. And now here, I'm gonna show you how to make the loop on one side, this loop. So what I'm gonna do here, zoom in here a bit. I'm gonna take my needle to come out of this silver bead. this one. So I'm just gonna make my way there. And this silver one. And now from here, we're gonna do peyote stitch, but with only 2 beads. So here on top of silver, I'm gonna use silver beads. On top of blue, I'm gonna use blue beads. And we're gonna make 34 rows, which means basically 34 beads. So I'm gonna pick up 1 silver, go through the blue bead. That's 1. Pick up blue bead, go through the silver. That's 2. Flip it over, pick up silver, go through the blue. That's 4. Flip it over, pick up blue, go through the silver. That's 5. So continue all the way until you have 34 rows, and I'm gonna meet you back here. Now I have my 34 rows, and what I'm gonna do here, I'm just gonna bend it like this and bring it here. I just bent it and brought it here. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take my needle, I'm gonna go through this sticking out silver bead and pull my thread. And then I'm gonna go through the blue bead that's on that strip. Pull my thread, go through this blue bead here. Basically, I'm attaching it to the main body. And we're done attaching the loop. Now what I do here, because this loop you'll be pulling every time you clasp it around your wrist, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make my way back up. And now from here, I'm gonna go back through these beads. I'm just gonna take 2 beads at a time. Here, I'm just gonna jump 2 beads here. Pull my thread, nice and tight. Then 2 beads here. And pull my thread. Then 2 beads upwards here. And pull my thread. And all the way around. And then once you get here, just get rid of the tail. And once you're done with that, I'm gonna meet you back here. So I went ahead, finished this side, and got rid of the tail. Now on this side, we have to do the toggle clasp. And what we do, I went ahead, took just a little more than half a yard of thread and put a stop bead, and I left a tail of about 6 inch. So make sure you leave enough of the tail as well. So I'm gonna do the toggle clasp. I'm gonna pick up 3 blue beads, 4 silver beads, and 3 blue beads. I'm gonna zoom in from here. I'm gonna drop it down. And then I'm gonna do the peyote. I'm gonna pick up 1 blue bead, go skip the one, and pick up the next blue bead. Pick up 1 blue bead and skip 1 and pick up the next silver bead. Pick up silver bead, skip 1 and pick up the next silver bead. So just make sure the color of bead you are picking up is going to be on top of the same color. So the next one is also silver, so I'm going to pick up 1 silver and go through the blue bead. Then I'm going to pick up 1 blue bead and go through the last blue bead. And now here I'm just going to make sure everything is set nicely. So here you already have 3 rows of peyote stitch. So you continue until you have 10 in total, and I'm gonna meet you back here. So I have 10 rows of peyote stitch. In the middle is silver and blue on the sides. And now I'm gonna take my needle to this bead. Just make my way there. And we are right here. And now here, only using silver, I'm gonna make 4 peyote rows. So I'm gonna make 1, flip it over, 2, flip it over, 3, flip it over, and 4. And now here, this part, we're gonna connect it to this part. See how perfectly it falls in? Now, if yours doesn't, just go ahead and add 1 more row of peyote here, and then it should fall in nicely like that. And now I'm just gonna connect them between each other. Just take my needle to this one. Back through this bit here. I'm just zipping it up. Pull my thread nicely. And then I'm just gonna reinforce that part. Now, once you're done with this, go ahead, take your needle through some beads and get rid of this tail. We don't need this tail anymore. And then I'm gonna meet you back here. So I went ahead, got rid of the tail. I removed the stop bead and thread this to my needle. And one thing I wanted to explain before, we did, in my twist bracelet, we made this toggle clasp. It was bigger, but it was same process. But there, what I did, I made the clasp first. I made the tubular shape first and then attached it to the main part, and it was such a struggle because you have to go through a lot of tight spots. Now here we are using different technique, and it was recommended to me by one of you guys, one of my subscribers, Marty. If you're watching, thank you. Marty basically said that you can attach it to the main body first and then zip up the tubular shape for the toggle. So what we're gonna do now here, I'm just gonna hold this like this. See where my thread is? I'm gonna go through the sticking out beads. Just don't mind that long tail there. We still need that. So basically, see, I'm going backwards and forwards through the sticking out beads. Right now here, I'm just gonna go ahead and pull my thread tight, and it zips up. See? ready. Easy peasy. So now I'm just gonna get rid of this tail. I'm gonna go through this neighbor bead, go up the neighbor bead, go down the neighbor bead, and back upwards here, and back down here. I think that should be enough on this one. Well, maybe I can go one more bead down here. And then here I just remove my needle and get rid of this tail. And the toggle is ready. Now what we're gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and thread this long tail we have left. And ignoring the fact that we have toggle attached here, I'm just gonna continue my peyote here. I'm gonna pick up blue, go through the next blue, pick up blue, go through the next blue, pick up silver, go through the next silver. It's going to be a bit tight in here. Pick up silver, go through the next silver, pick up blue, go through the next blue, pick up blue, go through the next blue, flip it over, pick up blue, go through the next blue, pick up blue, go through the next blue, pick up silver, go through the next silver, pick up silver, go through the next silver, pick up blue, go through the next blue, pick up blue, go through the next blue. And what we did here, doing that peyote, it pushes up this part. See? That's how you do it. And now you continue adding peyote. What I do here usually, like if I close the clasp, see if I pull it, you can see the gap there. What I do, I keep on continuing doing peyote until I don't see this gap anymore. What I mean here, okay, see this bracelet? If I close the toggle, but see, there's nothing underneath. That's how I do it, so you get that seamless continuing peyote stitch. You can stop here if you want. I mean, it's entirely up to you, but I'm gonna go ahead, continue all the way until I don't see gap here in between. And then once I get there, I'm just gonna get rid of the tail, and I'm gonna meet you back here, and then we're gonna have a look at our bracelets. And here are my beautiful bracelets. I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial because, oh god, it took me ages to make this one and I still have to edit it all. So as you can see, I made one blue silver, all silver, and black and blue. I will leave the codes in the description box if you fancy any of the colors. And look at this. Just gorgeous. And if I bring it up to the sun, you can see like they're really shiny colors. Beautiful. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.